In this video, I am going to discuss about the arrays in C. So array is a collection of similar data types. This comes under derived data type. Up to now, we have discussed the data types, different types of data type, right? So from that, one type of data type is a primary data type, which is used to allocate only one value. Primary data types are used to assign only one value. And if you want to assign more than the one value, derived data type is used. So one of the derived data type is a array. Array is also called as a derived data type. It is used to assign more than the one value. More than the one value in a single variable. This point important. Using one variable, it is used to assign more than the one value. If suppose I want to collect the student marks information. Student marks information. So student has to pass in different subjects like maths, English, languages, and social science. Like one student has a different subject. So each subject marks I want to collect. So marks of the student. So for every subject, if you write one variable, then the number of variables are increases. So that's why we have to write one student details in only single variable. Those marks we have to enter directly. So to analyze this type of values purpose, we have to use derived data type. So to assign more than the one value in a single variable. And array is also called as a collection of similar data type. Similar data type elements. One example, I want to take the marks of the student. So just I am writing as a marks, right? So just I am collecting the marks, all those marks like this 70, 80, 85, 74, and all these marks I wrote within the single variable name only. So this type of representation is called array. I want to write the standard syntax of the array. How to declare an array. First of all, we have to write the data type. Write data type. Which type of data type? There is array is a integer, character, or float values. We can take any one type of elements only. Array is a collection of similar data types. All values should be integers. All values should be characters. All values should be float numbers only. Right? So don't take the combination of values. So here we have to take only similar data type elements. So that's why first of all we have to write the data type. And later you have to write the array name here, name of the array. So just follow the naming rules of the variable. So assign those rules here and write the name of the array, and compulsory write the square brackets. Compulsory how to mention the square brackets, and within the square brackets we have to write a size of the array. So how many elements you want in that array? 10 elements, 20 elements, 100 elements. So compulsory we have to mention the size of the array. So this is the standard syntax of the array. So I am taking one example now. One example, int marks. I am writing here the size of the array 6. So I want 6 subject marks here. That's why I wrote size of the array 6 here. Then it takes the data type is the integer data type. So every element it takes as an integer and assigns the name of the array is a marks, and how many elements are there totally? 6 elements. Then it arranges the memory within the memory. It assigns the like allocate the memory within the memory is like this. All elements arranges in side by side only, that is in sequence. So totally number of elements, 6 elements are there. Okay, so now it assigns the memory like this, and the name of this array is a marks. This explains the name here. So this explains the name of the array, and here we have to write the values. So what are the values there? Mark 6 is, let us assume one value is 10 here, 20 and 30 and 40, like 50 and 60. These are the values, right? And this array allocates in the memory. This array starts from the particular address. So here it has the address. Let us take this address is I am assuming here 2000, 2000. So whatever the address, this address stores into this name of the array. Name of the array is a marks. So this address is generally stores into the marks. So marks variable value is how much now? Address of the array. This address is also called as base address. Starting address of the array, or we can call it as a base address. And in this address, which value it stores there? Integer value, because here data type I have mentioned here integer int. So it stores the each value as a integers. Totally how many integers are there? 6 integers. Now it assigns the memory integer memory allocation. So each integer occupies how many bytes of memory? 2 bytes for 32-bit processor. 32-bit processor and 4 bytes for 64-bit processor. Now let us assume it is a 32-bit processor. For first element it assigns the 2 bytes of memory, and the next 2 bytes of memory assigned for the second element, and next 2 bytes of memory assigned for the third element, and so on. So finally which assigns the memory like this, right? That's why here we can write in array declaration the memory has to assign like this. So whatever the size of the memory, based on the size of the memory, it allocates a different number of values here, and here we have to write the value here we have to write, and here it has the address, right, and here the name of the array. And again this array positions, element positions are called indexes here. These are called indexes. Index explains the element position. So now here 0 position, index position always starts from the 0. So if the size of the array is n, then the index positions are starts from the 0 and ends at n minus 1, right? So now its location should be like this: 0, 1, 2, 3, and so on. Finally, what is the index position of the last element? N minus 1. Here n is the size of the array. So whenever array is declared, it assigns like this. Now I am taking one example. How to initialize an array? Initialization of an array. I am taking one type of initialization should be like this. Int marks within the square brackets I wrote here 5. So finally we have to write the 5 elements here. Those 5 elements I am writing now like this: 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Totally I wrote 5 elements, right? So this is one type of initialization, right? Or we can initialize the same array like this also. Int marks 5. Compulsory you have to mention the size of the array in this case. In first case it is not compulsory, because here I entered totally how many elements? 5 elements I have entered. So this 5 elements stores into the array. Here I have mentioned 5. If the 5 is not given, then it does not give the error in this case, because already elements are given here, initialized. But in this case, in second case, I am not initializing the values. I want to initialize the values later. That's why compulsory you have to mention the size of the array compulsory here. Later I am assigning the values here. Marks 0. 0 index position value is how much here? 10 now. Marks 1. Assign value is 20, and so on. So finally these two cases we can take any one here. And the first one is a preferred one, because in single line we can initialize the values and we can declare the array also. So the first one is a preferred one. And one more case also there, that is using a user defined function, that is scanf function. We can initialize the array from the user or from the keyboard also. And whenever this instruction is given here, this line is given in the C program, then it assigns the totally one array like this within the memory. Total number of elements, 5 elements are there, and the name of the array is a marks. It writes like this, marks, and every element has address location. Let us assume the address location of the first array is a 200. The base address of this array is 2000, right? Then this base address is stored into which variable? Marks variable. And later the next address should start from the 2002 onwards. It's not a 2001 because here each element is an integer. One element is an integer. Now I'm assuming this processor is a 32-bit processor. 32-bit processor integer size is a 2 bytes. So one integer occupies the 2 bytes of memory. That's why the next integer stores in 2002 location, and next integer stores in 2004 and 2006 and 2008. These are the address locations. And index positions also I'm writing here 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the indexes. Now whatever the values I have assigned here, 10, 20, those are stored in these locations. Now I want to read directly 30 number. So then we can read the directly 30 number using like this. Let us write array name and here write index position. So if you want 3, write here within the brackets 3. First of all, I am writing simple program int main. Before that you have to write hash include stdio.h compulsory, and here I am writing the array name. Array data type is an integer. Now I am writing number. Just I want to write the numbers. Number size is a 5 I wrote here. Now it's not initialized, right? So it's not initialized, compulsory you have to write the size of the array. And later I want to take one more variable. That variable is I. Because now I want to I want to take the values from the user. Later here I am writing the simple function, printf function, because user has to know the values has to enter. So here I am writing the simple message, enter 5 elements. 5 elements. Okay, so now this is a printf function. So whatever the entered 5 elements from the user side has to store in this array. That purpose, here I am preparing a loop for I is equal to 0. I starts from the 0 onwards. I is less than the 5 because the size of the array is here 5, and I plus plus. Now within this I am writing scanf function. Scanf function, here each value is an integer. That's why I write here format specifier of the integer, that is a %d, and those values has to store in that array. Then write array name is num, and compulsory hot write ampersand symbol because that explains the address, and within the bracket write here I. Okay, this is compulsory now. So whatever the function I wrote here, scanf function, first of all if a user enters the value 10, then the 10 is stored into the num 0 because I value is initially 0. Again I increments, then I value becomes 1. Then whatever the next value, that value stores into the num 1, next 2, 3, 4, up to 4 only, because the index positions are from 0 to 4. And later I want to print this array. So print this array in a new line. So that purpose I am writing again one more for loop. For I is equal to 0, I is less than the 5 because the size of the array is 5, and later write here I plus plus. Okay, here I am printing the array. Printf. Just I want to print those values in a new line. That's why I try to write a new line like this, and later I am writing directly num I value is 0 is equal to %d. Here also I want to write the %d because I want to print that integer index position 0, 1, 2, 3, and here I want to print the value. So index position is explained by I, and that value is explained by num of I. Right? So now directly it prints that value, and here int main is used. That's why I want to write here return 0 and end this. This is one simple program to initialize an array from the user and again print those values, right? So what is the output of this? That output I am writing here. Output of this program. First of all, it prints the first statement, enter 5 elements. Enter 5 elements. Now from the user side, I am entering the 5 elements, 10, 20, 30, 40 and 50. Right? Later these values are stored into the memory, and again I wrote one more for loop to print that value. So now it prints the value like this, num percentage d I wrote here, that is I value. So this takes from this one here, I value is initially 0, num of 0 is what is the first value? First value I entered here 10. Right? Similarly, num 1 becomes now 20. Num 2 becomes now 30. Right? And last one is a num 4 becomes a 50. Okay, so every time I wrote new line, so it enters the value in new line only. So this is the output of this simple program. If suppose I wrote one data type like this, here just I am assuming int variable name is, I wrote here variable. I wrote the size of the array is 4. But here I have entered the values 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Totally how many values I have entered here? 5 elements. So 5 elements entered, but the size of the array is only 4. Then the compiler gives the error. So size is oversized and number of elements are more than the given size, so it gives the error. So we have to give compulsory number of elements should be 4 only or less than the 4. So types of arrays. So here we can give the array is different types. So one is called one dimensional array, and second one is a 2-dimensional, or we can write multi-dimensional also. More than the one is called multi-dimensional. One-dimensional array. Up to now I have explained one-dimensional array. It has a number of elements. All those elements are arranged in only single row. And more than the one dimension. More than the one dimension means now it takes the arrangement of the elements in rows and column wise, like just like one matrix representation. You suppose here I am writing one simple matrix here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So now this matrix size is a 3 by 3 matrix which has the 3 rows and 3 columns. These are called rows, right? And these are called columns. Okay, so now to define the two-dimensional array, first of all we have to write the data type, right? Later write the name of the array, and later you have to write the flower brackets, square brackets like this. Within the square brackets, first of all you have to write the row size, and later compulsory you have to mention the column size. Row size and column size is compulsory required here. Then it comes under two-dimensional array. Now I am taking one example. I am taking the name of the array is mark, and I wrote a 2 and this is 3. That means this variable, this array has 2 rows and 3 columns. 2 rows and 3 columns. We can assign the values like this. One type of assignment is like this, within the brackets you can write the square brackets, flower brackets like this, 1, 2, 3 as a one row element, and second row elements are 4, 5, 6. This is one type of initialization. Or we can write the same array like this also. Mark 2, 3, enter all the elements in single line like this. Then first of all it takes the first 3 elements in first row, and the next 3 elements are stored in the next row. Internally it assigns like that. So these are nothing but these are comes under initialization of two-dimensional array, and these type of representation is used to write the analysis of matrices. So matrix addition, matrix multiplication, and to write the multiplication and addition purpose, we can use the two-dimensional arrays. And now I want to write some important points from the array. So those are comes under properties of arrays. Properties of arrays in C only. Now I am explaining these properties. These are valid for only C programming language. The first property is a fixed size. Array is a fixed size. Once the size is defined, then we can't change the size. If the array size is 5, we can't write the values, 6 values more than the 5, and we can't change that size also. So that is one of the very important point. It cannot be changed once it is declared. Another important property is always we have to write a similar data type elements only. Similar data types. All elements should be integers, or all elements are characters, or all elements are float numbers only. Use similar data types. Don't use multiple data types here. If the size of the array, another property is the size of the array is a n, then the index positions are starts from 0 and defined up to n minus 1. This is also another property of an array. So this part is generally comes under introduction to the array. So now here I want to write a few example programs on this concept. First of all, I want to determine the average of an array elements. Okay, so let us define any one array and find out the sum of the array, and finally find out the average of those array elements. To determine the array compulsory, we have to write the sum of the array, right? So for further purpose, first of all I am writing now int main. First of all define the array, declare the array, int. This array operation purpose we have to write always loop. So loops representation purpose we have to take one variable. I variable I am writing for the loop representation, and later I want to define the array. So array name I wrote here a of 5 is equal to, just I am writing the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And later here we have to perform the summation operation also. That purpose I am using one more variable sum. The sum variable I am taking as a 0 initially because addition operation purpose first of all start from the 0. And later I want to write this complete summation. Later I want to write the average. Average purpose I am taking one more variable, that is AVG. So based on the application, first of all you have to write the declaration part. In the declaration you have to declare either integers or character, depends on the application. So in this application, in this program, I want only summation operation, and later I want to perform the average. So that purpose I am using here one variable sum variable, another is the average variable, and all this we have to repeat the number of times here. All this we have to write in loops. So that purpose, loop representation purpose, I am taking one more variable, and the array is a of 5. So based on the requirement you have to declare like this. And later I am writing, first of all I want to print those array elements. So that's why I am writing here printf, one simple message I am writing here, array elements. First of all we have to know what are those elements, because I have initialized those values in declaration part only. So that purpose, first of all we have to know that one. So array elements. So to print the array elements, first of all write the loop here for I is equal to 0 and I is less than the 5, size of the array is 5 here, and later write I plus plus. Okay, so within this I am performing one simple function printing the array. So write printf Just we have to print the values. So directly print the values. Percentile D I am taking now. I am writing here A of I, A of 0, A of 1, A of 2, A of 3, A of 4. Totally 5 elements are there. It prints those values, right? And later perform the summation operation. Summation also we have to perform individually one by one. First of all, add 1, 2, later plus 3, later plus 4, later plus 5. For the purpose, I am taking one loop. For I is equal to 0 again, I less than the 5 and I plus plus. Okay, so here write sum is equal to, within this I am writing now sum. Some variable is there, some variable initial value is 0. Sum is equal to sum plus A of I. That is, I am writing like this using assignment operator. Plus is equal to A of I. So plus and equal is there. So which performs the addition of sum and A of I, and result is stored into the sum. First of all, sum value is how much here? 0. So 0 plus 1 it performs, then 1 is stored into the sum. Later I increments, next it takes the next value 2 and again 1 plus 2, later plus 3, later plus 4, and it repeats these steps number of times. Okay, and later I want the average, so that purpose I am writing here printf average is percentile D. How to determine the average? Total sum by number of elements. So write directly number of elements are 5 elements, so I am writing 5 directly. Then it prints that value, then return 0. This is a simple program to determine the array, sum of array. So internally it performs this operation. First of all, sum value is 0, 0 plus 1. That result is stored into the sum, and again it performs the plus 2, and again performs the plus 3, and plus 4, and plus 5, and finally divides by 5, which gives you directly average. And generally another important point is here. Here I wrote average as an integer, but generally the average is available in terms of float number. So if you want exact float representation, please write there average as a float variable. Right? In this example, I wrote average as an integer, then directly it gives the integer value. It does not give the decimal points. And if you want a decimal point, general average should be like this 7.5, 2.5 like this. So that purpose, decimal points representation purpose, compulsory you have to take average variable as a float only. So let us assume the average variable as a float, and later write here percentile f. And here I wrote simple program to find the summation of the array. So determine the largest number. First of all, I will explain the logic. One array is defined like this. Let us assume this array has 5 elements. Array has 5 elements here, 5, 9, 13, 2, 0. So now the array has the 5 elements. I want to determine largest number from this array, because these values are already stored into memory. We don't know these elements. Just I want to determine what is the largest value from this given array. That purpose, first of all we have to read this first number, whatever the index 0 position number. Let us write the name of this array is A, and these are the index positions 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. First of all, read this number and store this number into the one variable. That variable is a max variable. Just store into one variable here. Why we have to store? Because we have to identify the maximum number from the given array. That purpose, store the first value, whatever the first element, that element into the one variable. Later compare this variable with the next bit position, next value. So A of 1 now. Just you have to find out this value. Max is greater than or equal to A of I. A of I. If it is true, then keep the max number as it is. If it is false, you have to swap this one. That purpose, I am writing the condition here less than. I am writing the condition less than. Max less than the AI. Just I am writing this condition now. See, First of all, it compares these values. 5 is less than the 9. Is it true or false? It's true. If it is true, then we have to interchange the values, swap the values. Why? Because the 9 is a greater number compared to the 5 number. We have to identify the max number. So that's why we have to perform which operation here? Swapping operation. That means interchange. Okay, so that part I will write as a simple algorithm. Because to write any program, first of all we have to write the algorithm to understand the logic. So compare max variable with a next element. Okay, so compare max variable with the next element. If it is less, then interchange. If it is less, then interchange. Interchange is also not required, just you have to store that value into maximum. If it is less, then store into max variable. Okay, so if it satisfies that condition, then store that value into max variable, otherwise not required. For that purpose, I am writing one simple logic here. A declaration is compulsory. Every time you have to write this one, int main, and here the declaration part. I want a loop representation, so loop variable I, and we want here the maximum number, so store that maximum into in this and define the array. The array consists which type of elements? 5, 9, 13, 2 and 0. Okay, later I am writing directly the values. First of all, we have to read that first position value. So max is equal to a of 0. First element has to store into the max, later write the loop. Now for I is equal to 1 I am writing now, not from 0, because already one element is stored into the max, so we have to compare these array elements from the next number onwards. So that purpose I am writing I is equal to 1 now, I is less than the 5 and I plus plus. Within this I am writing simple one condition, if max variable is less than the a of I. Okay, now what is I value? I value is 1 now initially. Max variable is first element 5. 5 is less than the 9. If it is true, then we have to write max is equal to a of I. Otherwise, it is not required. Okay, so later directly closing this, then write the printf function. Maximum value is, or largest number is a integer number, so %d, take that value from the max variable, so return 0. This one is a simple program. Now let us find out. First of all, the max variable has a which number? 5. Now it compares the 5 and 9. 5 is less than the 9, then this 5 is replaced by 9 now. Next I increments, I value becomes now 1, 2, then the max value is 9 now. So 9 is compared with the next element value is how much here? 13, that is also less here, so that's why 9 is replaced by 13. Again I increments, now the 13 value compares by the 2, this 13 value compares by the 2 now. This 2 is less compared to the 13, so it does not satisfy this condition, max is less than the a of I. 13 less than the a of I is 2 now. So the condition is false, it does not enter into the if body, and again I increments, again 13 compares with the 0, so that does not satisfy. So finally what is the max variable now? 13. So the output of this is max number is how much here? 13. This is a simple program using arrays, just I want to determine the largest number. And the same program we can use to write the smallest number from the given array also. To write the smallest number from the given array, just change this statement, only write there greater than the symbol. Replace less than by the greater than, then it finds the smallest number from the given array.